Hi. We went on a holiday one year to Lowestoft. I think we went on the train. And we stayed in a boarding house. It was all arranged beforehand. Um, and this boarding house was clearly the husband was a fisherman because well so my parents complained anyway. Every meal was fish. It might have been bloaters or cod or shellfish. It might have been shrimps or um, crab. I think one time everything was some kind of fish, or very nearly everything. I thought it was quite nice at the time. I've never eaten crab since, as far as I remember, because I decided I didn't like it. Though I'm sure we had it there, and it was in the way they did it anyway. It seemed perfectly nice to me. In fact, I think there was no problem with the fish. It was just that it was always fish. I think the grumble was you paid the full price for the lodgings, and they were getting the fish cheap because he was a fisherman, and somehow that was cheating. Anyway, we used to play card games, usually Newmarket, in the evenings, and it was like I think might have even been a halfpenny stake, halfpenny on one of the kings and a halfpenny in the kitty. So as a child, I was given the money to put in and kept the winnings. So I just put them into the one-armed bandits the following day. But anyway, you sort of won your holiday money. It was quite nice, really. One night, the husband was back, and he came in to talk to us because it had been stormy before, and they had to put into port in Iceland, and they've been discussing with the Icelanders there about what they thought was actually likely to be an upcoming war between the England and Iceland, and they, as he said, we sort of talked about it as though it was a football match because we'd no problem with the Icelanders, they had no problem with us, but it looks like they were going to go to war over fishing rights because the Icelanders wanted to extend their fishing limits, but thus banning English fishermen from some of what's now their waters. And he said the Icelander had spoken to him about the Norman invasion. This is the 1066 thing, and he said he told him that did the landlord realise that the Normans were Christians and the English were a different sort of Christians. The Normans were Roman Catholics, and the English king, at least, was still Orthodox Christian. But the Norman soldiers were told the story, which is known as the Song of Roland. Now, this story, it's about a battle in Spain between, let me get this right now, between the Christian Franks and what was described as the heathen Saracens, a battle for Zaragoza. There have been wars in Spain over a long period of time, and the Frank soldiers were anxious to go home. So the Saracens told them that they would give hostages, silver, and they would become Christians if they would just not fight over it and go home. And apparently the Franks agreed to this because they thought they weren't going to win Zaragoza anyway. So that was fine. But on the way back, they were ambushed by the Saracens, who freed the hostages, stole the gold, stole the silver, I mean, and didn't become Christian. And so this story was told to convince the Norman troops that the English were heathens because they weren't Roman Catholics, just as the Saracens were heathens because they weren't Roman Catholics. I think, looking back on it, that they were probably the same people as were called the Moors, who would in fact be Muslims. But anyway, the story was told so that the Norman troops would have no mercy with the English, because whatever deal the English decided to come up with, any kind of settlement, they were going to renege on it, would be some sort of trap. And anyway, the whole point of the Icelander telling him this seemed to be that underneath, never mind the high politics and your kings and your queens and those sort of thing, that the Icelanders and the English were basically heathens at heart, and we shouldn't be taken into war just because our Christian leaders think it's a good idea. We're being tricked in a similar way to how we were tricked at the Battle of, well, tricked in a way at the Battle of Hastings. Anyway, the following day, then, the other memorable bit about this holiday was that Dad took me on, they were like dodging cars, but they were boats on a lake. He still had the pole at the back and the contact onto the metal grid on top. But it was much more fun in a way than ordinary dodging cars were, because if you hit each other in the side, it would tip, as a boat would, whereas a dodging car doesn't. And as it tipped, it would lose the contact with the grid at the top in a bright blue flash, which is almost more exciting than the Norman dodging ride would be. And we managed to get it that if you got somebody to hit you in the side, they would tip you over, and you'd sort of slide to the side with a streaming blue flash, and they'd pull away from you. You'd swing the other way, deliberately leaning so that the boat would tip more, and you could get quite a flash the other way as well. And I think we thought that at any point now the owner's going to tell us off for this, but he didn't at all. It was a great ride, and I've never ever seen such a thing since. I don't know whether they still exist, but it's it's a great improvement really on normal dodging cars. It was a Thursday, and I can remember thinking that the god of thunder, well, Thunor in our case, was sort of the god of thunder, electric storms and so on, and this was a bit like that. So it was just a chance thing, and that's sort of one of my memories then, if you like. Bye then.